Alright everybody, welcome back. We've been having fun doing these stupid videos that we're calling our podcast. And Tom's in Tennessee with his family today tubing, so he's not here. So one of these days we're going to get all three of us together actually for the same video. Last week Juan wasn't here because of something. And anyway, so today we were, kicking around ideas, and we decided to talk about our first motorcycle memories. So I'm going to include a couple things in that. The first time you really remember seeing a motorcycle, what you thought, what you felt about it. The first time you rode any kind of bike, and then the first time you rode a street bike. That's kind of my three things I'm going to throw out there. So for me, I have a very vivid memory. Obviously, I always loved motorcycles, I guess, because when I was, I'm going to say 5 or 6 years old, we were at some party, somebody's camp in Louisiana, out somewhere, I don't know, maybe St. Francisville. Couldn't tell you if my life depended on it. It was a 4th of July party, and a friend of my dad's, Wallace Powell, he owned a service station, car repair place, and he had purchased it from a guy and was partners with him. Anyway, the guy's name was Henry. Henry had a Harley. It was some kind of FLH, I don't know, Road King or something of that nature. Probably either, it could have been a shovel head for all I know, or a real early Evo. But anyway, he came riding up to that party on that Harley, and I thought it was just like the coolest thing ever. Why do I remember that almost 40 years later? Couldn't tell you. But I do, like, vividly. What about before you saw one in person? I don't have any memories earlier than that. Really? No. I mean, like I said, I was little. I mean, I don't have very many other memories about anything. Because, like, Evel Knievel was a big deal for me. Yeah, see, that was a little before my time. Show Chips. Yeah, they rode motorcycles everywhere. And it wasn't, I'm sure they had the ones that were on trailer for the close-ups. Oh yeah. But most of the time they were riding. Like riding scene. Yeah. I don't know. I don't chase scenes. Yeah, I don't remember a lot of memories earlier than that. I mean, I remember when I was 10 years old, my dad took me for my birthday when I turned 10 to see Terminator 2. So that I have, but that's got to be 5 years later. That's probably the most bike riding you saw on anything. Like in the 70s and 80s, it seemed like there was more motorcycle riding on TV shows and stuff. Oh, could have been. Yeah, like I said, I don't have a lot of memories. I mean, by that time, my parents were divorced. My dad had a motorcycle, and I'd been riding tons on the bike with him by the time Terminator 2 came around. I mean, I rode thousands of miles on the back of my dad's bike up until I was probably like 12 or 13 when I was bigger than he was. But I mean, I used to fall asleep on the back of his bike and shit. I mean, like... That's good. Way comfortable. Way comfortable. On a 81 CB650. Whoa. Yeah, like just, so... Yeah, we used to go to Markham Park probably once a month in West Broward to go fishing. And every like third time there would be a big outlaw rally there. Yeah. And that's, my friend and I used to walk through there, and there was nothing. That's in the 80s. Everybody, quick interruption in the video here. Just wanted to mention our channel is growing. It's a slow but steady growth, and I really appreciate everybody who takes the time to watch us. I do notice that about 75 to 76% of our views come from non-subscribers. So if you enjoy what we're doing, click that subscribe button. It really means a lot to us. It helps support the channel, lets us know that we're headed in the right direction, doing the stuff that people are enjoying. And if you are doing that, please subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let us know what we're doing right. Let us know what we're doing wrong. We want to improve constantly and put out the best content that everyone will enjoy. So sorry for the interruption. Appreciate you guys, and back to the video. Yeah, like 82, 83, okay, 84 maybe. Yeah. And there were a lot of motorcycles and a lot of titties. Yeah.
So it's like, you're a teen kid.
Yeah,
you're
right.
Hearing the
You're 12 or 13 years old, right?
Yeah, you'd hear them coming in. You would hear them riding around doing the crazy contest, the hot dog on a string stuff.
Yeah, slow race.
All that stuff. And it was exciting.
Yeah.
And there was titties.
It's hard to beat that.
Prepubescent kid, it's like heaven, bro.
Yeah.
Heaven, right there.
Yeah.
Can't beat that. Then my friend Brian Jenkins and my friend George, they had dirt bikes. So.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if the trail rider is much of a dirt bike, but
I don't even know what a trail rider is. Is that like a Honda Trail 50?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the first bike I ever rode.
Really?
Yeah. So, my grandparents, my family's from Louisiana. If anybody doesn't know that, my mom and dad grew up in New Orleans, and across Lake Pontchartrain, which is a huge lake in New Orleans. It's actually not a lake. I think it's it's like part of the Gulf of Mexico, sorta, or whatever. But they call it Lake Pontchartrain. Not that anyone cares. There's a causeway bridge. It's the longest bridge in the world, 26 miles. Anyway, across the bridge, back in the 70s and 80s, was like the country. Now it's all crazy built up. Tons of people have moved from the city over there. But my grandparents built a house in Covington, Louisiana. That was like in the woods. They had horses and big piece of land and all that stuff. So my dad was the oldest boy, and then he has a sister who was like 15 years younger than him. So his younger brother and sister were much younger than him. Long story short, they had a couple dirt bikes in Covington, and by the time I was, 6 or 7, I guess, we were going over there, see my grandparents and stuff like that for like little weekend vacations and stuff. And so I instantly wanted to learn how to ride those things. It was a 3-speed automatic, no clutch. They had a Trail 50 and a CT70, which at the time I hated because I thought it was so stupid looking. No gas tank. It's that tube.
That's what he had, but I thought that was the Trail.
That's a CT70.
Is it?
Yeah. Well, there might have been a 92, and it said Trail 70 or something.
Okay,
they all said Trail something on them.
All right.
They actually were like streetable. They had lights and stuff.
And it had the stupid
tube frame.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now I think they're cool, but when I was 7, I thought it was so lame. And so it was still, it was dirt roads. It was all, so I would ride that stuff all the time, and that's how I learned how to ride anything about ride motorcycles at all.
Same.
No clutch though.
Yeah.
And so then a couple of years, I was probably 7 when that was going on. So I guess 4 years later, when I was 11, my dad and I moved here, and we went to Honda Sport on Copans Road.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I got a CR60, 2-stroke dirt bike, like a motocross bike with a clutch. And that was my first bike with a clutch that I learned how to ride. And again, back then, we lived in Boca, but like Linton Boulevard, right off 95, which is now Circuit City, and then went out a bit, like, there was just places you could go ride. So
we used to be able to ride everywhere because
especially out like West Broward. Yeah,
there was nothing.
Nobody
out there.
cared. Yeah,
there was one farmer that owned all the land. He might chase you with his little helicopter. And shoot, like rock salt at you.
Yeah,
but it was like ride to a fishing spot.
Yeah,
ride back.
But that quickly, by the time I moved to Florida, the boom of building was going, and within about a year or 2, there was nowhere to ride anymore.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
And I got rid of the bike, and I would still ride with my dad a small amount, but by that time I was 13, 14. I was almost as big as him. And
if you were a kid, where would you ride now around here, really?
There's
you have to go way out.
Yeah, maybe
northwest. Right?
Yeah, northwest. There's probably places, and there's tracks and stuff. But you got to travel, so your parents got to take you, and
we used to just get on and fucking
and go. Yeah. So there, and so that I was out of bikes for that period of time. I guess from the time I was like 12 until I got my first bike my first street bike when I was 16. I got a 1980 CB750F, which is a cool bike. I have one in my garage. that I've been working on. Well, that's a lie. I started working on it, and now I store it.
Let me reel that. Let me start over.
Yeah. I wanted a Ninja, but my dad knew I'd probably kill myself, and so the bike I was allowed to get was a CB750.
Gotcha. Yeah, I got a Honda Rebel that was my friend Steve, who bought it initially.
Yep.
Had moved to California. First thing we did was take the baffles out with a rebar, piece of rebar, to make it sound cool.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't. It sounded awful, dude.
Terrible.
It was awful.
So first thing I did, because at that time, and really still, but Pro Street drag bike stuff.
Oh, okay.
That's still to this day probably my favorite style of bike. Like when I see them, they're just vicious looking, all different kinds.
Yeah, they are mean as hell.
Anyway, that was what I loved. So first thing I did was get a Vance and Hines 4-into-1 open megaphone exhaust.
Whoa.
Which,
so you could hear you coming.
Oh yeah, which my neighbors
hated you.
Loved. And numerous times I would get up and go to high school on this thing at
early
like
morning.
7 in the morning. So the police were always like sitting outside the house, and it was a mess, but I didn't care. And
no, yeah, I guess once you get the bug and you get to riding, it doesn't matter. You're just no fear when you're young.
Oh yeah, I didn't care about nothing. I mean, like
me either. Dude.
You're too stupid to realize how bad
dumb,
you can
dude.
mangle
Dumb
yourself. I mean, we'd go to Fuddruckers in Fort Lauderdale for bike night, and get on 95 and be back to Boca, which is probably 20 miles.
Yeah.
You know, like in 8 minutes. You know, I mean, just.
We used to ride to Boca. I used to ride to Boca to that club weekends, I told you.
Yeah.
Off of Glades.
You know, just 120 miles an hour on this old bike with shit brakes. Big
rattling.
Yeah, you know, we just didn't know any better, really. You know, just, you know, had the world by
that and no fear.
Yeah, just no fear. You know, now I'm scared of everything. You know, if I trip 100%. And fall down, I'm going to be out of work for a week because of my shoulder or some shit. You know, I'm an old man. But so in Florida back then, I was under 18, so to get a motorcycle license, which my dad wasn't going to let me ride at all if I didn't have the motorcycle endorsement, I went and took the Motorcycle Safety Foundation class, and I was still a little bit scared to ride. Like, I remember that first day, like after the class was done, it was like a half day on Sunday, and then I got home. I had completed the class, I had my paperwork and all that shit, and then I went for a ride with my dad. First time ever that I rode.
Right, along with him instead of on the bike with him. And I was just following him, and we went down and around, and then he just went on the interstate. And so I was like, all right, I guess I'm going, you know, and he just went up like 2 exits, but, you know, I remember being a little nervous getting on the interstate because it's like, you know. Yep.
And, I don't know, you know, it was like, all right, that was fine. And, you know, then I just rode. I never really thought about it. You know, people always, like, is it hard to ride? People ask me that all, and I'm like, man, I can't remember not knowing how. I have no memories, really. I mean.
Like, I hadn't ridden in, like, over 20 years.
Yeah, when you just got your bike, right?
Yeah, and it's weird because when you first get on, you're like, oh no, this is crazy. Am I even gonna remember how to ride? And like muscle memory kicks in, I guess, you know?
Yeah, well they say, right, like a bicycle, like you never forget how to ride a bicycle.
Yeah.
I guess that's really true.
It was true for me. It felt that way, you know? Like I was still a little out of sorts.
Well, I think you're like a little, like, I mean, imagine like...
Because I thought I could get hurt now.
Right.
And now, it's like...
Yeah, now you know you can get hurt,
Yeah, before, I didn't give a fuck, bro.
Yeah.
I just rode.
Yeah.
Just rode.
Yeah. Rode a Rebel 250 on the interstate like 5 hours away, right?
Yeah, to Clearwater, dude, on Alligator Alley.
Yeah, that's, I mean...
Yeah, I would ride it to Boca... I'd ride it from West Broward to Boca, West Broward, East Fort Lauderdale Beach, 17th Street Causeway, everywhere, everywhere. And I thought I was the coolest motherfucker in town.
Yeah.
I really did, you know? People pull up, and they'd be like, cool Harley. I'd be like, it's not a Harley.
Yeah.
It's a Honda.
I remember I wanted, when I was like 15, so back then you could have, if you had a motorcycle that was 250 cc's or less, you could ride with your learner's permit. So that's since changed, and it's 50 cc's or 49 or whatever. But Yamaha, they had the Route 66, which was a Virago 250, but it was a V-twin.
Oh, and I remember the Route
And I thought that was like, when I was like 14 or 15, and I thought I was going to get that for sure. My dad was not having it. My dad he liked standards, CBs. He rode a CB 1000. He thought it was the best riding position. It was similar to dirt bikes. He
used logic.
Yeah. My dad rode for transportation a lot, though. I mean, he had multiple bikes with 40 and 50,000 miles on them. I mean, he rode. He just enjoyed riding. He would just ride to work, whatever. When I was in high school, we had one car and each had a bike, and we would just share the car, And I liked to ride a lot more back then, or I don't know. I just did ride a lot more. I don't not like riding, but I just don't do it as much. I don't know. I guess I've turned into a puss of sorts.
Really did it more out of necessity, I think.
I need air conditioning. Then. I'm just like, I'm tired after work. I don't want to get on the bike and cook on my way home.
I get that. But, I think it was mostly me, when I was younger, was out of necessity.
Well, that was the only transportation you had, right? So it was that or nothing,
That or nothing.
Yeah, it was better than walking.
Much better than walking. I wasn't riding a bus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, I don't know. Like, I think every winter, like, all right, this one, I'm going to ride more. Like, I got the Bolt, and I'm going to ride that more. But will I?
It's a good question.
I know.
It's a good question. I was thinking about that yesterday. I just took a long ride down Federal Highway.
Yeah.
And I was like, after about 20 minutes, I was like, it's still kind of warm out. I'm just gonna go back home.
Yeah, and I do enjoy it when I ride. When I go do it, I enjoy it. But in this weather.
But I also felt like I was riding like I was in a hurry, instead of just.
Really?
Yeah, instead of just enjoying.
Yeah, in a hurry. What, to get home?
I guess go wherever I was
get
going
back into the
nowhere, and then
I'm in a hurry to get back to that AC.
Right. Exactly. But I don't even understand why I was doing that.
Yeah.
Like I had a predetermined destination. I had to be there fast.
Yeah.
It's like didn't make any sense.
Not at all. But yeah, I mean, if we lived in a better place, I do believe I would ride more.
Like better weather. That's
what I mean. Yeah,
just better weather.
Yeah. Like if it was like even like up north, it's hot. It's gonna get hot today.
Yeah.
But it was probably cool this morning.
Which would be a nice ride.
Right. So you hop on. You're home by like 10 o'clock, and you're not like your underwear isn't soaking wet like you were in a swimming pool.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't know. I think everybody has a similar, memory from when they found. I
would think so. I mean, if you're a lifelong rider.
Yeah, your fascination started early.
It started somewhere. I would imagine. I mean, some people may get into it older. I don't know. I'd be curious. If you got into riding motorcycles and it sort of has become a big thing in your life, but like way later.
We say like post 40?
Yeah.
You think?
I don't know. I mean, I remember when I took that class, there was a couple of older guys who had never ridden.
Really?
I mean, I was 16, so older.
So they could be 25.
They could have been 30.
Right.
I don't know, but I'm just curious how many people, like, say, after 40 or near 40, started riding a lot without having early on stuff. I'm sure there's a lot of people like you who rode, stopped, wife, kids, responsibilities, whatever, and then, that's right. Tom. Tom didn't have a motorcycle for like 20 years either.
And now look at him. He's a maniac.
Right, but that, because he had kids and a job and money was tight. And
I had two in that time, but both I had to sell for.
Yeah, and you never got them back on the road.
Never got them back on the road. No.
Projects and
Yeah.
So I'd be curious how many people started riding with never riding, in their mid to late 30s or up. I would bet we're not going to get really anyone saying that. I think for a lot of people,
the fascination
starts early.
Way early.
I would say even if they never rode, the fascination started way early, and like their parents wouldn't allow it. then maybe they got married young. The
And then-
wife wouldn't allow it.
Right, then the fear sets
You know,
in.
I would. You know who I would say probably more than likely are the people who got started in it in riding later in life with no fascination are the women riders.
Oh, I bet you're right.
Because maybe they get, they find somebody who's big into it, and then
And slowly
it catches them.
Yep, catches them. Yeah.
with no previous interest at all. I would say more women, because I think there's more women riders now than ever. I mean,
yeah, I don't remember women, but I was young. But I don't remember them.
The only woman I remember riding when I was in elementary school. This is going to be similar time period to the first memory I have, but maybe a year later, we had a 4th grade teacher. I couldn't tell you her name. I wasn't in her class. I was in first, second, and 3rd grade at this school. But it was in that, and she had what I'm assuming was probably like a FX Harley. It could have been a Sportster.
Could have been.
Actually. But she would ride that thing to school.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Which was, a woman on a Harley
Teacher
in the
awesome
in the early 80s.
Butch.
Maybe, we didn't even know stuff like that back then. I don't know. I'm going to have to ask my mom because my mom would have picked up on that type of stuff.
Right.
Maybe a little bit more. But
you know what else I don't see? Ads for motorcycles like there used to be. I used to see just like car ads. There used to be in the 70s and 80s. There would be like the Pacific Coast.
Yeah.
They have ad. They had
like
ad
commercials.
Yeah. They had the ad for the riding on a Rebel.
Yeah, on TV, huh?
Yep. I don't see them.
Do you watch commercials?
Sometimes I have to.
Yeah, but mostly you skip them.
Yeah, sometimes.
So,
but I
really,
I would see one.
But as a business model,
maybe they suck.
No. As a business model, commercials are probably pretty down low as far as advertising goes.
Maybe
these
that's why they
days.
suck now. Because commercials used to be pretty funny.
Well, yeah, because who's going to invest a lot of money in commercials when people don't watch them?
Yeah.
I would never,
They still do car commercials though.
Yeah, maybe they haven't caught on yet. I don't know.
Yeah, they do a lot of car commercials.
Yeah, I don't know, but I would think that might be part of it. They probably have gone more to internet marketing and stuff.
Still,
I haven't watched a TV commercial, dude, in years.
You never watched YouTube, and all of a sudden you get an ad, and sometimes it's like an odd commercial.
But I ignore it, and then
you skip it. But you still haven't seen a motorcycle one like from Honda. Like I remember they had
I couldn't even tell you what I've seen.
VMAX one.
Yeah, no, I remember the commercials. Yeah, Hayabusa had one.
Yeah.
There was a big uproar over the Hayabusa when it first came out because they had a commercial. It was in Europe, and they had like a 911 on the Autobahn.
Oh.
And it was like rolling, and the Hayabusa just like
flew by
came by it like it was sitting still, and there was like a big uproar, and I think they ended up putting like a limiter on the Hayabusa because of that, like for 186 miles an hour or something.
Huh?
Yeah, I haven't ridden a new one, which I think is even faster. But I mean, I had a 2005 or 6. But yeah, I mean they're missiles.
I've also realized a lot of the sport bike guys when I was in my 20s, as they got older, switched to more cruisers.
Oh yeah, because they're not as. A Hayabusa is relatively comfortable, but like if you're riding a GSXR 1000, that's a young man.
That's a young man's game.
That's a young man's game. Unless you're real physically fit, which clearly I am not, but. I can't. You're leaning over on your wrist real hard. Your feet are like tucked up in your ass. Yeah,
tucked up in your ass.
Yeah, not for me. Anymore. But they're also for smaller guys. They're built for guys that are probably 5'8", 5'9", and 160 pounds. Yeah. They're just not comfortable for me.
Oh, my friend Gary loved sport bikes. He'd try to get me on his.
I did too when I was a kid. I still like them. They're cool.
Just the riding position, I could not.
The riding position has gotten worse and worse too. So like the ones in the 80s and the 90s were not nearly as uncomfortable as these because they're smaller and lighter and tighter.
Okay.
And they're vicious fast. But like I still want to get a 91 GSXR 1100 for a pro street bike. That's like that's probably my favorite sport bike of all time.
Gixxer?
Yeah, I hate that too though. That could be on my top 10 list of stupid things people call motorcycles.
Can of tuna?
Can of tuna, Gixxer.
Yeah.
I don't know what else, but
Is there one for Ninja?
I don't think so. But yeah.
Yeah, I could never. That riding position just was not for me.
It's not that good.
Like I still like mids, really.
I'm a
And
bit
sitting up.
Yeah, I like lately for me I'd like the forward controls but mounted to the rear instead of push forward. Mids are also a little bit too cramped for my fat ass.
Well, not like mids like are on the Honda with the Amen Savior with the plunger frame.
No, that's okay.
Those.
But that's like stock.
A couple days to get my
That's
my
like
hip
stock Honda riding position.
Yeah,
basically.
it is.
Yeah,
real upright.
or like the high mids.
I don't like.
Yeah, I like them, but
No, they gotta
but
be
my
up a little bit.
my feet don't move that way, or not my legs don't move that way.
It's the hip, dude.
I get a crazy hip pointer.
Yeah, no good.
And you gotta like get off and
good.
I'm a freaking disaster when it comes to any kind of physical
I guess
agility.
I guess for me now it's just forward.
Yeah. And floorboards. I'm a big fan of floorboards.
I don't know if I could get used to floorboards.
Yeah, like these on Tom's bike, perfect, man.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd get used to floorboards.
You would. You'd love them, I bet.
Yeah, but maybe I'd want a heel toe thing if I had floorboards.
Well, you
I
could.
never used the heel toe.
Yeah, you could have a heel. I like a heel toe, but I love floor because you can slide your feet around. Kind of, you got a little bit of mobility.
Oh yeah, you can push your heel up here.
Yeah.
You can slide down here. All right.
Yeah. So a lot of cool options with that, but anyway, we've completely gotten off topic about our motorcycle memories, but that's all right.
Well, those are mine.
Yeah. And those are mine. So we're gonna get out of here. Share your memories with us. I'm genuinely curious. I'd like to know about people's first memories, what got you doing this, and if you got into it late in life, definitely want to hear about that because I'm just curious how that happened because it's so different than how I did it and how Juan did it and how most everybody I know did. Everybody, I mean, my dad, young kid, him and a buddy bought a bike, hit it at a third dude's house.
That's the way to go.
Yeah, that was why when I was interested, my dad always got it. Let me because he knew I was going to. He knew I was going to do it anyway because that's what he had done.
Yep.
So, so let us know about your stuff. Happy to hear or excited to hear about it, and we're going to get out of here. Appreciate you guys, and we hope to see you next time at Gaddy's Garage.
Evel Knievel, R.I.P.